Welcome to the channel and thanks for checking it out called Dude Tested. In the last episode, I showed off the POTA Pounder. And alongside of the POTA Pounder, I showed off 73qrz.com, a website with a lot of resources and a lot of information that could help amateur radio operators. Today, I want to show you one of those features, one of the features that I love the most, and that's the Station Compare tool. Let's take a look at it right now. Oh, and hey, if you do like this video or you find benefit in this video, please consider sharing it out with others and maybe even liking, commenting, and subscribing. Believe it or not, it really does actually help out in the algorithm, and I'm trying to keep this thing going the best that I can. Thanks for listening. Let's get started. As we head over to 73qrz.com, the first thing that happens is the system gets our grid square via IP address. And if for some reason it does not do so, we can click on the grid square and we could type in our grid square in the site. And then we page down and we can see our local band conditions. Currently, it's 6:30 in the morning here, and it will tell you what bands are being heard, how many stations are being heard, and so forth. But it will also show you what are the best bands for you to currently work. And at 6:30 in the morning, 40 meters is probably the best band around here right now. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look at WSJTX on 40 meters just to see. Yeah, it was that easy. And now that we know that we could at least use this best bands gauge as a reference, what else can we do? Well, if we click on the compare tool at the top of the screen, we could type in any call sign that we want, and the system will start to monitor that call sign. And when it does so, what we'll do is we'll get a bunch of data for other call signs in that grid, essentially in a way to compare our antennas, our stations, and a lot of other things. We are only going to see a few stations on this first search because we're searching a call sign. We're searching all bands and all modes, but it's a 30-minute window. How many stations have heard this call sign in the last 30 minutes? But more importantly, how does this station compare against other stations in the 4-digit grid square? Let's take a look here. We'll start with 30 minutes of activity on all bands, all modes. What's going to happen is we're going to get an idea of how we compare against other stations within our grid square, our 4-digit grid square. So take a look at this station, right? This station in the last 30 minutes has been spotted 13 times with an average signal noise ratio of negative 5.9 dB, with the best signal noise ratio being 3 dB, the worst being negative 13 dB. 13 receivers have heard him, and he's been heard on one band, that being 40 meters, with the furthest distance being heard at 1,420 miles. We can page down and we get a bunch of cool information. We get spot count, we get signal noise ratio comparison, the reach, the band breakdown, and the direction. So let me just kind of go over a few of these real quick. First of all, on the bottom of the screen, we have a station breakdown, which we could arrange by call sign, the number of spots from least to greatest or greatest to least, the average signal noise ratio. We could sort by anything you see here, which becomes pretty useful. And just to get an idea, but you could see here in the last 30 minutes, there's been 4 stations in this grid square that have been operating, and 13 spots for this call sign that we looked up, 107 spots for KA9SOG, 3 spots for AD9DU, and KD9CSU has 2 spots. You could see that, well, we don't really know what band they all work, so let's click on band breakdown, and then we start to get a bigger picture. Well, AD9DU is working 80 meters, so it's not really a fair comparison to W9FFF or KA9SOG. But KA9SOG and W9FF are both working 40 meters. We could also click up here to eliminate certain stations, right? We just clicked on 80 meters to cross it out, and we clicked on 20 meters to cross it out. Now we're comparing just 40 meter stations, and you can clearly see that the SOG station has a significant advantage if we're just going by our spot count, right? We could also click on reach, and we can get an idea of how far each station is being heard in the last 30 minutes. And so we could see that the CSU station has heard or been heard from one grid. The DU station has been heard in 2 grids, 5 grids, and finally 11 grids. Now that's pretty cool to know that information, but what about a signal noise ratio? And now we could start to compare how our signal noise ratio does against other stations in the area. And again, over 30 minutes time, it might not seem like a lot of comparison, but we'll go to 6 hours here in just a second. Finally, let's click on direction. And in fact, to go to direction, let's go ahead and click on the last 6 hours and now compare stations in this grid square. Okay, and over the last 6 hours, we start to see a different picture. Well, 86 spots for W9FFF and AD9DU has 88 spots. This is overall again because we're in all bands. If we click on band breakdown, we'll see that actually all of these stations have been operating on multiple bands, which is kind of cool. You get a band breakdown and you can see that, well, 40 meters has been a good one for this station, and it looks like 160 meters has been good for this station. But then you look here and SOG is just dominating 40 meters. Maybe they didn't do too well in 80 meters with only 8 spots compared to the 41 spots for DU. So we're starting to get an idea now. Now we start to get a larger picture of a signal noise ratio. And I'll keep this in mind here. And let's just go ahead and make this 20 meters. I'm just kind of curious of what will happen if we switch this to 20 meters, how that station compare is significantly different. So you start to get an idea of things. And before I just go ahead and end things, I want to show you the direction tool over the last 6 hours. Hey everybody, it's occurred to me that I should do it so the direction finding could also be sorted by band, which would give a better idea for each specific antenna for each specific band. So here in the future, I have the opportunity to add a couple more things to the compare functionality. We could do the same thing. We can click on stations to eliminate stations and get an idea of at least their directionality of where they're being heard. Now, it's not going to be perfect, but there will be times when you start to see, like, for example, this KEA9 SOG station is very heavy to the west and the east. And I would almost wonder if they have a beam set up. I wonder if we could check that out. I'm going to guess that they have a beam. But, I would say that this helps me understand that the directionality feature of the website is functioning correctly. And finally, if we just kind of go back and we take a look, though, we could see that the W9FFF station, it kind of operates roughly the same direction to the east and to the west, but at significantly less distance. And I would tell you that the reason for that is probably because W9FFF is running a gutter antenna as opposed to a beam. Let's take a look at AD9DU, and we also kind of see the same pattern, as well as KE9DZP, which doesn't have anything for that band. Pardon me, they do have something. They're just a very small footprint. Then again, when we go to the bottom of the screen, we get an idea for all the stations that were heard in the last 6 hours, what bands they were heard on, by how many people, their average, their best, their worst signal noise ratio, their reach, and their distance. But I also want to point out there's this little button down here that says, WTF does this do? And it shows you this is what the station compare is, what the signal noise ratio tells you. Why compare within the same grid? What are my spot counts, and why are they lower than PSK reporter? My station isn't showing up. It shows you all these different things that may help you while you're trying to compare your station to others in the area. Today, you got to see part of 73QRZ.com, and you got to see the station compare tool. Now, I want to mention that this website is AI driven, meaning this website was made with AI, imports data with AI, and there still is a little bit of tweaking to do because everything that is made has to go through verification processes to ensure that the data is correct. What I'm trying to tell you is it will always be improving, so check back with it frequently. And if you like the concept of 73QRZ.com, maybe you'd like to check out the FT8 Battle Royale. To learn more about the FT8 Battle Royale and how to steal people's ham radio contacts, check out ft8battle.com. Hey, thanks for watching the channel. And again, if any of this helps you or you think it could be useful in the future, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing this out. 73, y'all. Wait, that's Freddy's thing.